Welcome to our English news edition, coming to you from Canal, Algérie. To the headlines. The President of the Republic, Abdelmajid Tebboune, extends his sincere condolences to the family of the retired General Mohammed Bitchin. The Tismsilt province is host today of the government meeting in line with the last Council of Ministers outcomes. Army General Said Shingereha, Chief of Staff of the National People's Army, receives the Tanzanian Chief of Defense Forces, General Jacob John Makunda, now on a visit to Algeria. A memorandum of understanding for cooperation in the energy field is signed by Algeria and Azerbaijan to exchange expertise between the two countries' companies. The International Solidarity Day with the Palestinian people is celebrated amid atrocities brutally perpetrated by the Zionist occupation. Good evening, those were today's headlines. We begin our news with the President of the Republic, Supreme Commander of the Armed Forces, Minister of National Defense, Abdelmajid Tebboune, who sent a condolences message following the death of the retired general and war veteran Mohammed Bitchin on Tuesday in the University Hospital of Constantine Province. The President of the Republic presented his sincere condolences to the family of the late, as well as to the personnel and staff of the National People's Army, praying Allah Almighty to welcome him in his vast paradise. Following the passing away of a retired general and war veteran, Mohammed Bitchin, on Tuesday, the Army General Chief of Staff of the National People's Army, Said Shingereha, presented on his behalf and on behalf of the National People's Army's personnel his most sincere condolences and feelings of compassion to the family of the late, praying Allah Almighty to welcome him in his vast paradise amongst the valiant martyrs. In other news, and pursuant to the guidelines of the President of the Republic, the government meeting will be held on Wednesday in the province of Tismsilt. Prime Minister Ayman bin Abdurrahman will preside over this meeting, which will be dedicated to complementary development program of the region. More insights with Melissa Gobash.
The President of the Republic has instructed during the last Council of Ministers the initiation of the rehabilitation of the roads linking the province of Tismsilt with other provinces, taking into consideration the reinforcement of the rural construction program. All these guidelines were made with the aim to boost development in the region.
We are waiting for our country to flourish and develop even more. We are very optimistic concerning the President's decision, which will be beneficial for several municipalities. The province requires a major development. There are many deficiencies that were put on the President's agenda.
Known for its agricultural and tourist potentialities, the province will benefit from several initiatives to boost many sectors and the execution of the decisions taken during the meeting.
We hope that this ministerial delegation will execute the decisions taken. We thank the President of the Republic and we will always support him. We are waiting for this meeting. All we want is the implementation of the decisions.
An optimistic atmosphere looms among the inhabitants of the province following the President's decision, hoping from this meeting to make a change in developing the province in several fields.
In another development, Prime Minister Ayman bin Abdurrahman received on Tuesday here in Algiers the special envoy of the UK and Northern Ireland Prime Minister Lord Richard Risby, in charge of promoting the economic partnership with Algeria, now on a working visit to our country. The meeting was an opportunity to review bilateral relations and ways and means of promoting them between the two countries via reactivating the different mechanisms to diversify partnership as part of a joint action program. Prime Minister Ayman bin Abdurrahman also received the Azerbaijani Energy Minister Parviz Shabazov. The discussions centered on the historical relations linking the two countries, particularly in the energy field. The meeting was attended by the Energy Minister Mohammed Arqab. In a different context, Army General Chief of Staff of the National People's Army, Said Shingireha, received on Tuesday the Tanzanian Chief of Defense Forces, General Jacob John Makunda, now on a visit to Algeria, along with an important military delegation in Eskilo.
The welcoming ceremony started with a salute of the national flag, followed by the military salute of the host by a military formation representing the different forces of the National People's Army. During the meeting, which was attended by force commanders, heads of departments and central directors of the National People's Army staff and the Ministry of National Defense, alongside members of the Tanzanian delegation, the two sides discussed the security challenges facing the African continent, exchanged views on the most appropriate ways to deal with the various threats, and examined ways to strengthen military cooperation relations between the two countries.
فيما يخص التعاون العسكري الثنائي.
On this occasion, the Army General delivered a speech, at the beginning of which he welcomed the host delegation, stressing that the efforts of both parties must focus on the development of a lasting cooperation based on trust, consideration of mutual interests, and the strengthening of dialogue between the two armies.
بعين الاعتبار المصالح المشتركة ويرمي إلى تعزيز التشاور بين مؤسستين. بهذه المناسبة أود أن أعرب لكم عن استعدادنا التام.
Army General also emphasized our country's full readiness to exchange experience in the field of counter-terrorism, while affirming the sincere desire to joint efforts in order to achieve cooperation that meets the aspirations of the peoples of the two friendly countries, in particular to promote peace and security initiatives in the African continent.
مبادرة السلم والأمن في القارة الإفريقية.
For his part, the Tanzanian Chief of Defense Forces expressed his feelings of joy for this visit to Algeria, which allowed him to discuss the various security issues on the international and continental scene, stressing the convergence of views between the two sides, which opens the way to a constructive and faithful cooperation in the future for both countries.
Moving on to the parliamentary activity, a draft bill was presented on Tuesday on the general status of public services regarding the right for an unpaid leave for the creation of a company. This took place during a plenary session presided by the chairman of the Council of the Nation, Salah Goujil, in the presence of the Minister of Relations with the Parliament, Besma Azwar. The Labour and Employment Minister, Yusuf Sharfa, said on the occasion that the employee is entitled to an unpaid leave to set up a business for a period of 1 year, renewable once for a period of 6 months. In a related context, a meeting was held at the National People's Assembly on the reality of reading in Algeria. The chairman of the Assembly, Ibrahim Boughali, said that reading is a safety shield against extremism and an important element in society. The Minister of the Constitutional Court and several ministers The President of the Constitutional Court and several ministers were present, in addition to doctors and specialists in the field. The proceedings of the National Seminar of Local Associations of the Cap Del program kicked off, an opportunity for the Interior Minister to tackle the Algerian approach regarding the achievement of a participatory democracy. Najah Dayar will tell us more.
After the experimentation phase, which affected 8 municipalities across the national territory and 36 associative projects related to heritage, environment and tourism, the CAPDEL program should make it possible to define the best practices to be implemented by the central administration to develop local authorities while involving local associations. Today, it is the associations' task to demonstrate their projects and their ability to carry out good projects.
and also to provide their budget, and above all to carry out projects which are a part of municipal and territorial plans. Therefore, they participate in achieving objectives shared between all the territorial officials. Presiding over the opening of this day, the Interior Minister harked back to the interest given by the President of the Republic to the local development and the consolidation of municipality role as a pivot of dynamic transition of development and creation of wealth, particularly in the light of the ongoing revision of the local and provincial code. The President of the Republic grants a great importance to the local authorities in the public policies via workshops tasked with reviewing codes. These workshops will ensure the balance between the authorities and also define the prerogatives. Also, it is a question of strengthening participatory democracy at the local level, which will undoubtedly create a real dynamics of sustainable development, particularly in the economic field. The civil society organizations, which are an important actor in local governance and economic development, particularly in its territorial dimension, we conduct throughout the CAPDEL program numerous innovative projects. Efforts should be stepped up to ensure the success of the local projects tantamount of sustainable development.
Moving on to energy, a memorandum of understanding of cooperation was signed between Algeria and Azerbaijan by the Minister of Energy and Mines, Mohammed Arqab, and his Azerbaijani counterpart, Parviz Shabazov. During the meeting, the talks focused on the examination of development opportunities in cooperation in the energy sector, in addition to ways and means to share expertise between Sonatrach, Sonelgaz, and the Azerbaijani National Oil and Gas Company, SOCAR. Let's now have a listen to the two ministers' statements following the signing ceremony.
I would like also to underline the fact that President of Azerbaijan, Mr. Ilham Aliyev, was visiting Algeria just in the beginning of November, and he also met the President of Algeria, and it was a fruitful discussion between two presidents, and also was decided to develop our bilateral relations and our cooperation in all possible sectors within the energy.
It's planned to create a working group between the Algerian Ministry of Energy and the Azerbaijani Ministry of Energy in order to address the issues that we have identified today. This cooperation will be implemented very soon through agreements between Sonatrach and the Azerbaijani company SOCAR, and between Sonelgaz and SOCAR as well. In various fields related to the energy sector, several projects will be implemented in Algeria and Azerbaijan as well.
And the International Solidarity Day with the Palestinian people was celebrated amid a violent atmosphere due to the Zionist exactions perpetrated on a daily basis despite the UN calls for de-escalation. More details with Melissa Kobash.
Following the resolution of the United Nations General Assembly in 1977, the world celebrates on Tuesday the International Solidarity Day with the Palestinian people, an occasion to reaffirm the support with the suppressed people, leading a legitimate fight for liberty and an independent state with Al-Quds capital. The celebration took place in a context marked by violent aggressions by the Zionist entity, as 3 Palestinians were killed that night. The Gaza Strip hosts more than 2 million Palestinians. 57% of them suffer from food insecurity due to the blockade being imposed by the Zionist entity 16 years ago. As for the poverty rate, it reached 64%, making the region heavily populated and dependent on humanitarian aid and international organization funds. On this occasion, the UN Secretary General Antonio Guterres called for immediate measures to reduce tension in the occupied West Bank. For his part, the UN Special Coordinator for the Middle East peace process warned that the conflict in the Middle East keeps worsening, calling for urgent measures to concretize a settlement between the two states. As for the UN Security Council, it held a meeting to discuss the situation in the Palestinian occupied territories. This session intervenes in a time marked by an escalation of violence in the occupied Palestinian territories and a stalled peace process, as well as a brutal Zionist occupation.
Two films directed by the Italian journalist and human rights militant Liena Rusca were screened at the Foreign Affairs Ministry. This committed director highlighted the dilemma of Sahrawis victimized by anti-personnel devices, in addition to the untold daily suffering of the Sahrawi people in the refugee camps. And the Moroccan streets remain the scene of daily protest movements denouncing the repressive Mahsen regime. It is now the Moroccans' women's turn to voice their anger and demand their legitimate rights. Story by Najah Tayar.
Out in all cities to denounce their disastrous living conditions. This time it was the Moroccan women who took to the streets to voice their anger and rejection of the unfair policy of the Mahsen regime. Our protests are to demonstrate the miserable situation that the Moroccan women suffer from, especially in the rural areas. It is the occasion to recall once more that the Moroccan woman has her rights that must be preserved. The women's demands are not yet met. We want to highlight the total injustice to which women are exposed, such as physical, moral and especially economic violence that has become a phenomenon that harms her dignity. Despite violence, repression and injustice, the Moroccan women are determined to keep on fighting to change this unbearable situation.
To sports now, CR Belouizdad at the top of the National Football Championship following its difficult home victory over CS Constantine with 2-1. Bakir and Belkhair scored for CRB and Lakja for the visiting side CSC. Let's move now to the FIFA World Cup 2022 being held in Qatar. Senegal progressed to the knockout stages following its triumph over Ecuador with 2-1. The Netherlands is the second qualified side from Group A after beating the host team Qatar with 2-0. England and USA ensured their qualification after beating respectively Wales with 3-0 and Iran with 1 goal in Group B. And with that, our today's news edition comes to a close. Thank you for tuning in and goodbye.